Welcome back to another episode of Just a Tip, where we say the shit that everyone's thinking but nobody's saying. There's a certain type of person that gets into hospitality because they love food. And then there's the ones that end up here because life kind of punches them in the face. And they decide to build something out of it anyway. And that's this episode. We sit down with Jeff Bud, the guy behind Apocalypse BBQ. And this isn't some clean, I always wanted to be a pitmaster story. This guy was working corporate at Apple, doing the whole thing, and then life decided to flip on him. Cancer, reset, had to slow everything down. And somehow that turned into him figuring out barbecue in his backyard, doing pop-ups, which somehow wound up becoming one of the most legendary spots in Miami. And you could really feel that in how he talks. It's not chef ego, not hype. It's someone who realizes how fast everything can disappear. So when he builds something, it actually means something. We get into that shift, going from corporate structure to real chaos, betting on yourself when it doesn't make sense, building community the right way, and why most people don't realize what it actually takes to go from this is a cool idea to this is a real business. There's a lot of heart and honesty in this one, the kind that you don't really hear unless somebody's really been through that kind of shit. This is Just a Tip with Jeff Bud. Let's get into it. So let me tell you guys something I see all the time. You take over a second-gen space, you think it's turnkey, but the second you walk in, it's not exactly what you need. Maybe the bar layout doesn't flow, maybe the kitchen's a little outdated, or the bathrooms look like they haven't been touched since the 90s. That's why I tell all my clients, you need to call Brodson Construction. Whether you're building from the ground up or not, you still need finishing touches done right. Brodson's been local and family-run since 1989. They're the top 1% in Florida, and they've handled everything from luxury homes on Star Island to some of Miami's best retail and restaurant spaces like LPM, Cipriani, Hillstone, Bell Harbor, just to name a few. Bottom line, don't settle for nickel and dime contractors who might underbid the work to win the job up front and screw you over in the end. Brodson maintains integrity every step of the process to build enduring relationships and never exploit clients. So remember, if you're going to build, call Brodson Construction.
Today we got a really special guest. This is one of those few in the clique, a part of our crew. Guys have been trying to get him on for a while. He's not like a lot of the other guests that we've had. He hasn't been doing this his whole life. He literally came out of COVID and created one of the greatest concepts that we have in food and beverage in the 305. Very outspoken, very generous, all about community. Great dude. I love it. I like to call him a friend. I like everything that he's doing now and expansion plans for the future. But I want you guys to hear it from his mouth directly. Today, we have the one, the only Jeff Bud, a.k.a. Jeff Budnesky. Bro, thank you for coming on.
I'm impressed that you nailed that last name.
I do my best, bro.
That's amazing. That's
part of that Eastern European. People are like, Bud who?
Yeah, no, I've heard all kinds. I grew up being called butt naked, so.
Butt naked. I love that.
I didn't.
So, it's interesting. Again, I think only when I was doing some research on you did I really even find out. I didn't know you were a tribesman, and I found out you're a 305 guy. You were born and raised.
Yeah.
So you're from Surfside, right?
Born and raised. I was initially born technically in Kendall, but moved to Surfside when I was days old.
Right.
So I just like to point that out there because of my Kendall pride, right?
Obviously.
So, but yeah, man, Surfside. I grew up. We had a little crew back in the day. We used to call ourselves the SLT, the Surfside Little Thugs. We were very dumb.
Shit. Were you guys the ones rolling around Bell Harbor and skateboards and causing havoc?
Yeah, we were bike riding all day.
The mean streets of Bell Harbor.
The mean streets of Bell Harbor. Love it. But yeah, we had it was really fun. There was a little park on 96 that we used to play at every day. Football, basketball. Grew up there.
Right.
Beach all the time.
Right.
And it was a dope vibe. It was a really cool community. I think I was really lucky to catch the end of that age when you could bike till the lights turned off and your parents wouldn't really be worried about you. Right. So we were always out and hanging out, and it was dope. It was a really awesome part.
Where did you end up going to school?
Actually, my mom worked in Key Biscayne, so I went to KBCS until halfway through 5th grade. And then I really wanted to go to school with my friends.
Right.
So we ended up transferring me to Bal Harbor Elementary.
Right.
Did a year there. My mom was like, I can't just take you there in the morning, whatever. And so I ended up going back to the Key, which was cool. It gave me two different insights in life. I had cool different friend groups in different parts of Miami. And I think that's what helped me learn how to be very social and adaptive very early on in life, which is important for today.
So how did food come into your life?
Well, I love eating.
I know, so do we. I mean, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah. Growing up, my dad's from Argentina, my mom is from Brazil, and so my mom was a big party animal back in the day. And so she used to throw these crazy, extravagant parties, and it was fun because she would hide all the chairs in the house because you either had to be standing up, having a drink or a bite, or you had to be dancing. There was no sitting down in her parties. And so she would do these massive events, and my dad would be grilling in the back,
Right.
providing all the bites,
Right.
right? And so my mom would bake a lot of really cool, what we call in Brazil, salgadinhos, like little salties.
Yep.
So she would make like coxinha and empadinha, like different things that we would eat as little bites. But my dad was always in the back throwing it down on the grill.
Right.
And, dads and their sons, special relationship, me wanting to be like my dad. I was there trying to help him out, burning my fingers, trying to play with the fire, getting
Right.
yelled at more than being helpful. But I think that's where the passion for grilling and for feeding came to be.
Right.
There was something really cool about the way people would eat my parents' food, and they would look at him and just like that. Oh my God, this is amazing. Oh my God. To see that reaction over and over again. And it's like, wow, as a kid, that was a big impression on me. And I think that's where the spark for hospitality kind of started growing, because it was watching them take care of people, watching them nurture people. That was instilled at a young age. And that was kind of where it began.
Right. And then give me, again, I love Miami Beach and Surfside, just South Florida nostalgia. What were your go-to spots to eat when you were younger?
Dude, so there used to be a place on 71st and Collins called Rocky's, which was a burger, like cheesesteak spot. It was like one of the first greasy spoons,
Right.
To my knowledge at the time at my age, that I would go to. And I remember you'd walk in, it was a countertop, there was a flat top grill, a guy in a dirty white apron. And it felt like this thing that I was seeing out of the movies. In retrospect, like, do I know if it was good or not? I would say it was great, but I was also a kid, so my taste buds weren't developed. Another former beach spot that I have to shout out, it was a little further north, Rascal House.
Everybody talks about Rascal House.
Dude, man, Rascal House was the ish, bro. Like, it was the greatest thing in the world. I remember, again, as a kid, right? I would get this 5-mile tall roast beef pastrami sandwich, and they would give you all the pickles and stuff when you got there. And then every time I went with my dad, it was guaranteed New York style cheesecake with strawberries on top. And that was the best cheesecake. I mean, to this day, me and him still love cheesecake. So
Do you think any of that influence kind of carried off on you into like what you do today in terms of, or?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think in the food style as well. I mean, to this day, I'm always looking for a good pastrami sandwich. Like, that's a big thing that I love to eat. But I think the way that those places felt planted the seed for what hospitality should feel like as I grew up, right? Like, you walked into Rascal House and it was these 70-year-old waitresses, like, and they knew everybody, right? And they had these like really homey names, and you would walk in and they'd be like, "Oh, hey Joe, how you doing?" And you would just see these relationships, and it was just like, yo, being there, you felt like you were part of something.
Right.
And when we talk about Apocalypse, when we talk about Lala's, that's something I tell my team all the time. Like, you're not just a restaurant, you're a part of the community. And when people come here, they need to feel like they're a part of something. And so I think that was the foundation for that mentality, which, later on in life, you read great books like Unreasonable Hospitality, and you start learning about these things. And my time at Apple, that kind of reiterated all of that. But the foundation came from going out to eat with my dad.
Did they ever wind up for special occasions? Did you go to the Forge? Was the Forge like on the?
The Forge wasn't on my list. My family.
Carpaccio? Were you guys doing
no.
the little Bell Harbor Carpaccio?
No, dude. So we were fortunate to live in the area, but we weren't fortunate to have a ton of money.
Right.
Also, living in Surfside back then was not living in Surfside today, right?
That's correct.
The prices were a lot different.
Well, let's talk about that. What was Surfside like back then as opposed to today?
I think Surfside back then was just a middle of the road, or what do we call it? Mid-income community, right? Like it was a mid-level social economic class. It was people that were working, right? Very like, you show up, you wake up in the morning, you go to work Monday through Friday.
Right. Blue collar. So
it was like a blue collar kind of environment. I remember the people in front of me, the people around me, they were all just local like workers, right? They all worked either nearby or had some sort of 9-to-5 job. Nobody was making it happen, right? And like going out to eat, especially like for my family, that was a luxury. And the fanciest restaurants we were going to was Rascal House. Like going to Rascal House was like, that's the Ritz for us back then,
Was it as kosher as it is today? Was like that whole part of Harding Avenue, and because now today it's, unless you're, I think today Surfside, Harding Avenue, like if you're not kosher, you're not going to make it.
There was a strong Jewish presence. Like I remember my front door neighbor, part of the tribe. A lot of my neighbors were Jewish in some capacity, but it wasn't like when I moved to the Key and my mom got a little bit more involved with like the Hasidic community,
Right.
it was definitely not that deep as it was when I was living in Surfside. Now, the few times I've gone back to visit, I definitely think there's a bigger presence. It's definitely a lot more powerful. It's definitely a more Jewish-driven community than it was back then, for sure.
Because I find it funny, and I'm not trying to start any race wars or anything like that, but you know, now it's like where Hasidics were kosher was like super kosher. Now it's what, kosher friendly, or what's the word they use?
I haven't heard that
kosher
term.
type, but like now that it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, it doesn't have to be like from a rabbi blessing, but now it's, you know, kind of, you know, a little more lenient and a little cooler, so you could have a better menu type thing.
I think it's really interesting because I have, you know, obviously I have a lot of Jewish friends, and my mom's deep in the Jewish community, and so, but as a horrible Jew that I am,
Right. I mean, that makes two of us. You know,
I serve pork and I do all these things.
Absolutely love it, man. I mean, look what you do for a living. I mean, it's blasphemy, straight blasphemy, bro.
Right.
Right.
But I have a lot of my mom's friends that are like, dude, like, if I get you a kosher brisket, can you smoke it for me? And I'm like, I can.
Right.
But there's pork on the smokers, and they're like, "We'll just pretend you didn't say that."
Right.
Like, what are we doing?
Right.
Like,
Right. Sorry, kosher friendly. I think it was kosher friendly is the.
So
right.
to see that kind of change of loosening, I guess, on the strictness is really interesting. Because I remember, you know, like my family didn't grow up very strictly Jewish, and when my mom started hanging out at the Shoal on Key Biscayne,
Right.
I remember one day we were going to do something, and I was like, "Oh, I can cook that or whatever," and the rabbi was like, "No, you can't light it. Like, has to be one of us." And I was like, "Wait, but I am one of you guys." But even there was like a break of like, you're just not Jewish enough, I guess.
Right. You know what? Like, and that's kind of pissed me off. Like over the years, you know. Listen, you know, I'm a proud Jew, you know, but you know, I don't like the whole like when it's convenient to, you know, it's like you're never going to be Jewish enough, you know.
I mean, I think that exists in every culture, right? I think the other day I'm a new father, right? And so a lot of my
Congratulations, bro.
thank you. A lot of my Instagram content is parenting stuff,
Right.
And I saw this really funny reel the other day. It was a group of moms, and they were just like, "Who's the most mom of all the moms?" Like, and it was like silly things like, "Oh, you buy formula, like you don't breastfeed, or
Right.
like you don't make your baby food, like
Right.
you buy Gerber." It's every culture has some like, I'm better than you at
It's
this thing.
but it's like shaming now.
Yeah,
It's
dude, it's like, but we're all the same thing.
Right.
Like, we're moms, we're dads, like we're Jews. We're like, why can't we just ultimately?
Right.
We're all humans,
Right.
right? Which is, I
Absolutely.
think, like we're all living, breathing people that are just trying to survive in a world that is moving very quickly, that is very challenging to survive in, that has all kinds of like, why not just support each other?
Absolutely.
So-
I love it. I love it.
A lot of you know me from my F&B Miami page, but what you might not know is that I also run Florida's largest restaurant real estate brokerage called F&B Hospitality. Every week I meet somebody that thought that they could just wing it on a restaurant lease. And every week on F&B Miami, you guys see how that turns out. And that is exactly why I started F&B Hospitality Brokerage. We treat our clients' money like it's our money. We don't say things just to say it or paint pretty little pictures. We go based on facts and numbers. If we don't like a deal, location, or permit status, we are absolutely not afraid to tell you. It's about setting you up to last. So you could focus on food and foodies while we negotiate the build out and the terms.
So now you are going to college. You are getting, obviously your idea wasn't to go into hospitality, right?
No.
So what was the plan? Like, I guess the question is, you know, you wound up doing social content for corporate companies, right?
Yes. So I more than social content, I was part of an entire marketing team when I started with Apple, and that was a really interesting journey. I started off working in retail, which was really cool.
Where'd you work?
Apple retail.
Oh, at Apple retail.
I
Okay,
started
got it.
working in an Apple store.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I always say Apple was the university that I needed.
Right.
What I learned in Apple retail is the foundation for how we treat hospitality in my restaurants.
Right. Which Apple store did you work in?
Lincoln Road.
So you worked in Lincoln Road. What year was this?
This was before they moved to the new spot. I worked in the shoebox. This must have been 2008 to 2000.
Oh, so it was still in its heyday. I mean, Lincoln Road was still, that was
Yeah,
still
yeah,
like
yeah.
Lincoln Road proper. I mean, what, you know, I'm sorry, I don't want to break away,
No,
but
no.
I got to ask because, you know, we're always so fascinated with what Lincoln Road used to be compared to today.
Uh-huh.
Like, did you love going to work? Did you love working on Lincoln Road or?
I loved 95% of going to work. The only thing I hated was the ticket pyramid scheme or whatever that Lincoln Road used to run.
Tell me about that.
Dude, so, I'm a part-time employee, so I didn't get a lot of benefits and cents, right? I just started working at Apple, and you don't have time to go run off and repay your parking tickets, nor do you have enough money to pay your parking tickets, right? I was just out of high school, was trying to make it.
Right.
And so you go park your car. There's not a lot of free parking. The closest free parking is 10 blocks away, and it's Miami. You take the free parking, you show up to work, you need a new wardrobe. So you'd park wherever you could find spaces, and then you could park for 3 hours at a time, but your shift is 5.
Right.
So, or it was 4 hours, whatever it was. It was just never long enough that you could pay for parking. And back then there wasn't the app that you could refresh it on your phone. And so every day you'd get a parking ticket. And so that started adding up. And then next thing you know, you're thousands of dollars in fees. And it's like, yo, you got to pay $2,000 in parking tickets, but I only made $1,500 this month. So what am I doing?
Right.
That was a big problem.
They're obviously keeping the scam up because now they lowered the time limits to like 1 and 2 hours where you have to keep feeding it.
I would love to see the backside of like how much revenue is generated from parking tickets.
Insane amounts. And a lot of it's actually private companies now. Now a lot of it is parking companies that, pay landlords to use their garages and parking lots and like, hey, you can make income out of it.
Yep.
They have their own technology. So it's weird. So they obviously are a lot stricter on it so they can make more money.
Dude, they just did that at Merrick Park in Coral Gables.
Right.
And I hate it so much because before you'd walk in, you'd pay for your parking at the gate. You didn't have to think about it. And then now they double get you, right? So I always park back end. That's just, I don't know, like just how you park. Dad taught me how to park like that. I'm sure most guys park like that.
Right.
But if you park like that at Merrick Park, you get a $10 ticket.
Right.
So it's like now, even if I'm paying for my parking, I'm still getting a ticket just because I parked my car in a way that's more convenient for me to park. And that's because it's a private company that's squeezing as much of the juice. So now, and that's become, it's a place that we go to because it's an outdoor mall.
Right.
And so my daughter's only 4 weeks old. So we want to have
places to walk around.
We need places to walk around. But now it's like, dude, I don't even want to go here because I'm getting juiced every time I go on this parking. And I'm not buying anything. I just want to walk.
What were some of the places you used to love on Lincoln Road to go eat? Like when you worked at Apple?
Spree's is the first place that comes to mind.
Absolutely.
Spree's was the go-to. I used to get the mussel sandwich. It was like a turkey with spinach and all kind. It was delicious.
And when pizza in Miami sucked, that was actually like a go-to pizza spot.
Yeah, it was always dope. It was always dope.
Right.
Spree's was the go-to. There was a place called Icebox that we used to go to a lot.
Love the Icebox, absolutely. Which one? The one that was on the side of the side road?
Yeah.
Right. The first one.
Oh man, and there was a place, and now I can't remember its name. It was like 2 blocks west or block west of Lincoln Road. It had a really cool kind of dark, I don't want to say gothic, but it was like a cool decor, and it had this really great like bakery and sandwiches. I can't remember the name, but
it was on Lincoln. It was off Lincoln.
On Lincoln. It was on Lincoln. It was a really dope spot. I remember we used to get the baked goods, and I used to go there a lot in the morning for like breakfast.
Yep.
And there was another spot called Pasha's.
Pasha Cafe was great.
Yeah, I used to get little bowls and stuff there all the time. And then my favorite was the market that they used to do on the weekends on Sundays.
Absolutely.
That was awesome because you'd show up and there'd be a bunch of vendors in front of the Apple store and you'd get, empanadas and juices and whatever, and they had produce. It was awesome.
But it was great because it was so busy and so packed and so much life, right? It was like, it was the place to be,
It was, damn, there was a burger spot at the end of Lincoln's too that I had my first black and blue burger at, and I'm never going to remember the name.
Shit. You gotta
it was like, and it was a walk. I remember
it was, hold on, I remember this. It was they had a couple, they had a bunch of locations.
Did they? I only knew the one.
It had a number in front of it. 11, no, it was 11. It's going to come back to me, but I know exactly the burger place you're talking about. That actually had a fire burger.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had my first black and blue.
Right.
And I think I'm realizing as we're having this conversation, there was an early trend in my life for greasy spoons. Like I Rockies and then this spot, and I always love those little rinky-dink burger joints that are just fire.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you have this whole adventure on Lincoln Road. You're in Apple retail.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off from before.
No, it's all cool.
All right, so go for it.
So Apple retail was really dope because that was the first place that kind of opened up this idea that you can change the world, which is a crazy concept to think of as like, I'm a retail employee. What am I really going to do to change the world, right? But if you stop and think about it, which I became part of the training team, and so I used to teach this as well. I really believe this. To this day, I believe it. You have someone that's coming in and buying a computer. Well, a computer is a massively important tool in your life.
Right.
And if you learn how to write on that computer, what's going to stop you from being the next great American writer and writing a novel that's going to impact how we think? What's going to stop you from opening up Logic Pro and making a song and making a song that's so impactful that people are dancing with it, with their father-daughter dances at their weddings, and it becomes a core memory and it becomes a part of everybody's life. There's music has that impact.
Right.
Film has that impact, right? You can open up Final Cut, you can open up iMovie, and all of a sudden you have the ability to produce content that really can shift the way people think. So yeah, you're a retail employee, you're selling a laptop, but dude, what you're doing is you're creating a ripple that can affect everything around you. And that's hospitality.
Right.
You walk into a restaurant, and this is something we talk about a lot. You walk into a restaurant, you're not just walking into a place that's like, yo, I'm here to get a meal. Yes, you are, right? And 90%, maybe 80% of people that are walking into restaurants are in a good mood. It's either I'm getting lunch or I'm celebrating something. There's a positive reasoning behind it. But what about the people that aren't?
Right.
What about the people that are coming in because grandma just died? The people that are coming in because they got a diagnosis for cancer. The people that are coming in because they don't know what they're going to do. They just got laid off of their job. Those people need a place to sit and think and feel like they're a part of something. And in hospitality, for 45 minutes to an hour that somebody's sitting inside of your restaurant, if you can give them comfort, you can take them away from their problems and you can immediately change the way that they're feeling. And that's a mood swing, right? And maybe that's not going to fix their problem. I can't take your cancer diagnosis, but for an hour, you can feel like a normal person. And that gives you the headspace to think, okay, now I know what decision I need to make next. And that comes from being in a place that takes care of you like community. That's your ability to literally change the world, right? Good customer service, good guest experiences, that pays forward. You walk out of the door, there's a great Volkswagen commercial it starts backwards. And basically the gist of it is it's a series of people that smile at each other. And because one person smiles at the next, it causes that person to do something positive. And it all takes place in one little city block. And you see a guy helping somebody pick up produce and a guy helping someone open the door. And all of that was the chain reaction of a woman that was walking down the street and saw a Volkswagen Bug. She smiled at the Bug and she turned around to the next person and she smiled at them. And that's what you're doing in hospitality. If I can put a smile on your face and you walk out of that door and you can spread 1 ounce of kindness, that kindness will continue to grow. And little by little, the world will be a better place.
I love that. So Apple had you fucking pumped and ready to go. So how did you wind up growing into a different position from retail?
So I was I wasn't born with, right? I was blessed to be born into a family that spoke Portuguese and Spanish.
Okay.
And so that gave me a unique skill set in 3 languages right off the rip.
Right.
And so,
Tudo bem?
Tudo bem, tudo jóia, meu irmão. Fazemos o resto em português, não tem problema.
Bro, you fucking go deep, bro. I love it.
Put some captions right here.
That's it, bro.
So that gave me a really unique skill set, and that not super unique, but it gave me the ability to speak 3 languages, coupled with the fact that I understood the culture and I understood what Apple's ethos was.
Right.
An opportunity came up with a team called Marcom, and they needed somebody to do quality tests for websites, and they needed somebody to go in there and just make sure that everything was on point. But it was specifically for the Brazilian apple.com/BR and apple.com/LAE, which is Latin America English. Right. And, I had grown a little bit in my career at Apple. I was kind of making some waves and somebody made the connection and it was an opportunity that I was like, yo, I definitely want to explore this. And so I took it. I ended up part of this amazing, incredible team. And I started growing within that team as well. And I went from QA to the photo video producer, which was a talent. It was something that I had always loved in my life, was taking photos. While I was still with Apple Retail, I ended up going into a position called the creative.
And you were young at the time,
super
right?
Super young. I ended up going into this position called creative, which is where you teach people how to use software.
Right.
And every creative has a pro app that they specialize in. Mine was Final Cut because I loved film and I loved photography and I loved storytelling.
What's your favorite movie?
Ooh, man.
See, I gotta catch you up there.
It's got to be Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs. If I have to answer off rip, I think I'm going with either one of those 2.
Tarantino's the GOAT. True Romance is mine. Part of the Tarantino universe, bro.
Tarantino is amazing. I love everything that he does.
Yeah.
So I'm going with one of those 2 if I had to name it.
So you liked where you were.
I loved where I was.
Look, as a business owner, I'll be real with you. Running my brokerage takes all my time. And in Miami, if you're not showing up online or on social media, you just don't exist. That's why I've worked with Sage Marketing Studios from the very beginning. Website, social, even this podcast. They're the ones behind the camera. Building strategy, keeping it consistent, and making sure my brand looks like it actually belongs in the city. So just a tip. Stop having your cousin post blurry iPhone pics once every 3 months. Hit up Sage Marketing Studios. You can find them on Instagram at socialmedia.sage and tell them Felix sent you.
So what changed? How did he go from fucking having a dream job at Apple to, being the fucking pitmaster of pitmasters,
So there's a couple chapters from start to finish, but the big catalyst was having cancer.
Wow.
When I was with Apple, I got diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. And Apple was gracious enough to be super helpful during that time. And it was really amazing. The support that I got from them was incredible. And I went through my treatment for about a year. I came back, and at that point I was doing out-of-home marketing for Apple. So I was spending a lot of time in Mexico and doing stuff for Latin America, producing photo shoots and video content and stuff like that. But the thing with Apple is, as great of a company as Apple is really tight on branding. And there's a reason that they are where they are, right? Their guidelines are very strict.
Right.
And as a creative person, you don't like guidelines and you don't like being held down, and you want to expand and you want to do all these things, which let's bookmark this because that's something we definitely need to talk about.
Right.
It's a realization that I had later on in life that actually Apple was right. But at that time, I couldn't come to terms with it, especially when I came back. Right. At first, it was like, I think the moment for me was we were launching something in Mexico for the first time. I think iPhone was coming to Mexico officially for the first time. And
so it was an exciting time.
It was super exciting. It was super exciting. But then we had this big meeting, and the guys in Cupertino were like, listen, why don't we just shoot this thing in LA? Because LA is basically Mexico.
Right.
And the authentic need inside of me and my team, right? All the guys that needed to make this thing legit were like, what the fuck? No, we're not doing this in LA. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, this needs to be in Mexico. Mexico is dope. Mexico is vibrant. Mexico is bold. It's full of flavors. Mexico is, in my opinion, to this day, one of the most amazing places in the world. Top favorite. If you have
culinary.
a chance, dude, for culinary, for culture, for
everything.
If you walk around, one of the most beautiful things in Mexico City, you walk into a restaurant and the first thing everybody says is, esto es su casa. This is your home. Yo, man, the idea of how they take care of people in Mexico City is wild, brother. That is the most magical place on earth. Everybody talks about New York, and I love New York, and like you go to New York for the food. Mexico is New York better, 1,000 times better, with more green space, better food, better everything, and better people by far. Sorry, New York. I know I love you guys, but y'all are rude as hell. So, you have a place, you have this beautiful place with all of these things, and you're like, yo, let's go shoot it in LA, and it's just disrespectful. So we fought that, and we ended up doing it in Mexico, and we did it right, but it kind of killed the love for what I was doing, especially coming back from having had cancer. I'm like, dude, like, I want to tell stories that impact the world. I've been, for the last 3 to 5 years of my life, I have been telling people, you can shape the world. You can change the world. You can make the next great American novel. You can make the next great film. But I want to be a part of that. I want to tell your story. And so that kind of started disassociating. My love for Apple started kind of disassociating. And I started thinking, like, what am I going to do next? And so I left. And I started kind of working for a couple of different agencies. I started freelancing. I ended up doing work for a lot of other cool companies. I did some stuff with Google, and I had worked for an agency that I ended up doing stuff for Food Network, which was really cool. I went to Colombia to help launch a TV show. That was awesome. And none of that scratched the itch. Great work, incredible work. I think I did amazing things with amazing people. Just I needed something to fill my soul. And I think that comes from having been face to face with death twice at that point.
Well, I guess that was my next question was, you beat cancer, and like, do you get this newfound like hard on for life? Like you want to really go out there, no more corporate. You want to like live your life. How, like, was that just a big, huge impact on you? And
they say that there's like, I guess there's like a group of people that when they come close to dying, all of a sudden they need adrenaline to feel alive. I definitely think. So I did my birthright trip right after I had cancer. And at the time, when I got to Israel, there's always a beef, right? But at the time I got there was a beef with the Gaza Strip. A couple boys had been killed on both sides. And I remember it was the World Cup. I was sleeping in the desert, and there was fighter jets flying over my head, bombing Gaza. And that rush was like, yo, like everyone was kind of nervous, like, yo, we can get bombed. And I was like, like, let's go. And I'm like, and that's absolutely freakish and insane. Like, why would you want to be blown up, right? But it was just like, there was something about, I started looking into like the riskiest activities I can do. And all of a sudden I was just trying to find ways to just get that feeling of being alive. And then I found that a lot in kind of putting my entire life at risk, stepping outside of this very comfortable job, going to freelancing, and then stepping away from freelancing for agencies and saying, forget it, I'm doing it on my own. If anybody knows anything about opening a business in America, right? Entrepreneurship is the craziest thing that you can do. Recommended to absolutely no one. If you like sanity, if you like sleep, if you like quality of life, if you like balance, do not get into entrepreneurship. You will have none of that. Right?
Because people look at you and they're like, oh, well, like he literally just jumped into it. You know, we'll talk about it a little bit later during COVID. And look at him. So if he did it, I mean, we're sure we can do it, right?
Yeah. And
simple, you know?
You can.
Right.
Yes, you can. But you have to be willing to lose everything. And that's where people don't understand. Like, there was a point, and we'll get into this, but there was a point when I was sitting in the beginning of Apocalypse, and I literally had to sit down, and I was like, I can pay my rent, or I can do another pop-up, but I can't do both. That was a moment that I had to live through. And like, going through those initial stages, many times after it happened again, yo man, this will squeeze you, this will push you, this will hurt you in a lot of ways that you don't expect. It'll test your relationships. I missed so many birthdays. I missed so many opportunities to hang out with my family. I missed so many gatherings because I was cooking barbecue overnight. And you have to be willing to make every sacrifice if you want this to work out. And then people, there's that great picture, right, that shows like some guy on top of a thing. It says overnight success. Right. And everybody from the front is looking at him like, oh, it's just that little roadblock. And then they don't see that the overnight success took 10 years of development. Right. It took 10 years of failures. It took 10 years of lessons that you had to drive through, push through, and you had to force your way through. That doesn't just happen, right? That's something that you have to pay that price. So no, it's not. Do I recommend it? Yeah, absolutely. I think being an entrepreneur is the most amazing thing in the world.
But you know what? Like, you know, listen, one entrepreneur to another, there's no bigger rush.
No.
There's no bigger rush.
And that's what it was, dude.
For us, for guys like us, it's never always about the money. It's about the kill. It's about the sale. It's about, you know, getting that first piece of press. It's getting, you know, it's that, I don't know. I always got off on it. Like,
dude, it's the pressure.
Right.
It's almost like a sick addiction. Like you need this mountain of pressure.
Right.
And if you don't have that, it's like, I can't tell you how many times my partners or my friends or even my team has looked at me and just been like, how are you doing this again?
Right.
Because it's not like we did this once. Dude, it's a constant thing. You think you get to a point where your business, your journey, whatever it is that you're on, you come up to a task that seems insurmountable. Right. You think it's gonna never, and then you think, yo, I'm gonna get through this and I'll never be in this position again. And the biggest lie you can tell yourself is exactly that, because you'll be in that position again 15 minutes later, brother. Right. It doesn't stop.
So this is where the journey goes to, you know, I guess what helped make you and your brand today. How was Apocalypse born?
So going back to the cancer chapter of my life, fat boy. And so I've always loved barbecue. It's just something that I've always lived off of. And I remember traveling to all kinds of places in search of good food, good Q. And when they told me that I had leukemia, the first thing that I had to deal with was I was immunocompromised. And the first restriction they tell you is you can't go out to eat anymore. You don't know what's going on inside of a restaurant. Some restaurants are unsanitary. And unfortunately, that could cause you to get very sick. And if you get sick, you will die. And so that's off limits. I was like, well, I'm not dying without eating ribs again. So we got to figure this out. And I bought a Weber Smoky Mountain, put it in my yard. I started cooking, and it was terrible, disgusting. Worst barbecue ever created. But practice makes perfect, and that's the first lesson in entrepreneurship. You're going to fail. Learn how to embrace your failures and fail harder, right? So I leaned into it. I watched a lot of videos online. Shout out to Malcolm Reed. Learned how to barbecue and started just making ribs for my friends, for my family, for me.
Well, was this before or after COVID?
This was way before COVID. This is when I was sick. This is when I had cancer.
Got it.
So the barbecuing actually became a part of my life. And then it went from like this thing that I was doing just because I wanted ribs to this thing that I was doing because there was a football game on, or it was my buddy's birthday, or whatever. It was a reason to get together. And it became this, hey, let's gather. And we're going to gather and Jeff's going to smoke meat and we're going to be good to go. And it was also really cool because at the time, barbecue was fairly cheap to make. Right. So you could feed a mass amount of people with a brisket, 2 racks of ribs, right? And it wasn't the same as like having to buy steaks and things like that.
Right.
And so it was dope to be able to do that for everybody. And then I met my now wife, Laura.
Yep.
And
AKA Lala, big shout out.
AKA Lala. And so when Laura came into my life, she changed everything about me. But one of the first things she changed was she sat me down and she said, listen, I hate your barbecue. Not because I don't like the food, but because actually she didn't like the food. She didn't like barbecue at the time. I had to teach her that.
Right.
But
she was a burger girl, right?
She was a burger girl through and through. But she's like, I hate that you barbecue because you're outside all day. You stink. It's dirty. I don't get to hang out with you. You're spending all this time behind the grill and I have to entertain everybody. We need to figure something else out.
Right.
And so I always say there was this like little, if there was a map or a graph, it would be my love for Laura going this way and then my ability to barbecue going this way.
Right.
And it just kind of died out, and it faded off into the background. It gave me time to focus on my business, which at the time was an agency that I had created for myself. It was my first run in entrepreneurship. I had created my business. It gave me time to focus on that, and things were going really good right up until 2019 when the world got sick, right? And then COVID hit, and everybody kind of went on lockdown, and we were trying to figure out what was going on. And one by one, every client I had started calling me, "Hey, love what you're doing, but I gotta put a pause on this. This isn't working anymore." Right. And next thing I know, I'm home and I'm basically unemployed, which, as you can probably feel if you were in my shoes, would drive you absolutely insane, right? We're just not the kind of people that want to sit on the couch and do nothing.
Right.
And so that was my position. Thankfully, my wife is a nurse. At the time, she was a bedside nurse. And so she was able to continue putting food on the table. She was getting a ton of overtime. So financially, it was okay. But nobody wants to be just like provided for. Right. Like, I'm not that kind of guy. So
we're not those guys.
It just doesn't work.
Right.
So I'm sitting around trying to think like, what do I do? And we had just moved to a new home, and my office was right next to like our patio set where my smokers were. So I was just constantly looking at them, and I'm like, maybe one day I'll just light one up and just I'll make some ribs before Laura's working 12 hours a day. That's more than enough time to have barbecue on the table by the time she gets home. And then she's who's gonna be mad at eating ribs for dinner? That you like whatever. And so it's like started growing in my head. Now, at the time, I was also her errand boy. That was my job. Because
nothing's really changed, right, for us, right?
I mean, yeah, true. And so she's asking me to do all these things, and one day she calls me up and she's like, "I need you to ship this box to FedEx."
Right.
Man, I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I got you, babe. Whatever you need." And I'm walking out of the house, and I'm just thinking, like, man, fuck the apocalypse. Like, I just want to make some barbecue. I just want to chill.
Fuck the apocalypse.
Boom. Apocalypse BBQ, dropped the box, run inside, made an Instagram, hacked the logo together.
Without consulting anybody, that's it, you went with it.
I was just like, listen, it helped that everybody was selling cookies, selling brownies, selling whatever out of their house, right? Everybody was doing their little side hustle. Pizzas, whatever. I'm just like, fuck it, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to sell ribs.
Right.
No idea how to do it. No idea how to price out food. No idea. I just did it. And it sucked in the beginning. It was hard. I made no money because I had no idea. I didn't know that you were supposed to cost your food out at 25% of whatever you were expected to cover all of your expenses. I was just like, I paid $50 for ribs. I'll sell the rack for $60. I'm making $10 off of each rack.
Right.
Doesn't work like that, right? And there's so much that goes into it, but it didn't matter. The point was I just did it. And I think if someone had sat me down at the time and been like, this is what it takes to run a restaurant, if I had actually talked to people, which I ended up talking to people, but if I had done it right off day one and been like, what do I do? I probably would have just been like, that sounds like way too much. I'm not doing this, right? And eventually, yes, I shout out Carl all the time when I talk about this story because I went to Hate Mondays. I had no idea who Carl was, never sat down, never talked to the guy. And I just walk into his restaurant. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to get into this barbecue thing. And he could have been like, get out, goodbye. But instead he was like, yo, sit down, let's talk. And there was a lot of people that helped me in that sense of community. John Falco is another guy who opened up all kinds of doorways for me, introduced me to everything I needed to know. Kush helped me a little bit along the way. Michael Beltran, I was randomly texting Michael Beltran. Sometimes I wonder if he even knew he was talking to me back then because it was like John put us in a group chat. And, I got all of these wonderful people to start giving me advice. And they started, you need to keep your prime cost under 60%. And you need to be, rent needs to be about 5% and stuff. And I'm just looking at all these numbers like, oh my God, I'm not, this is insane. But I had guidance. And one of the things along the way, I remember I sat down and I talked to John, and this was super important, was I told him, somehow I got to pay you back. I think John was the most impactful person in everything that I did. And I was like, somehow I got to pay you back. And I was like, why don't you take a percent of my company? Like if I do this thing and it grows, like I want you to have a percentage of it. And he turned it down. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. But I will ask you for this. If you're ever in a position to do what I did for you for somebody else, you have to do it. And ever since then, it's been an open door. Anybody walks up to me, asks me questions, whatever it is, anything that I can do to help grow the community, done. Because that's how we get better, right? Miami always is in need of better gastronomy. I think we're in a way better place now than we were back then, right? 100%. We have incredible restaurants than we did 10, 15 years ago. But we could still use more. Kendall needs way more gastronomy. Kendall needs way doper restaurants. I'm trying to do my part. Eileen is trying to do her part. There's great spots to go in there and have dope meals, but we could use a lot more of that, right?
I heard rumors about some other people that might be coming into Kendall.
All right.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Well,
okay. So now how did you take it to the next level in terms of going viral and your social media and really getting now the community to rally around you?
I think it was just being authentic. I think authenticity was the key thing. I had marketing experience and I had knowledge, but everything that I knew about marketing required budget, which I didn't have, right?
Right.
I didn't have a production crew. I didn't have a team coming up with creative. I didn't have copywriters, giving me the captions that I needed. I had a phone.
Right.
And so I did what I could do. I talked to my phone. I talked to my people. And I think that genuine connection of just getting on the camera and letting people know, like, this is what's happening. This is how we're doing. I think people really love the transparency of it, right? When we opened up the beginning of Apocalypse, I never expected to have lines. I never expected to sell out of food.
Dude, you didn't just have lines. You literally had like Apocalypse, like last piece of bread and a Russian bread line kind of like lines. Like it was crazy, bro. I used to see the shit on social media originally. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, what is he serving in there? What does he have crack in there? Like what?
A
little bit. But but do you think it was like the right cuisine? Because listen, as much as I love barbecue, for some reason everybody loves barbecue, but there's not that many solid places of barbecue in South Florida.
That's changing,
right?
I think that's changing in a big way. There's a much longer list now, right?
Right.
La Trela just opened.
Yes.
Shout out to those guys doing great stuff. Drinking Pig reopened
Raheem,
recently.
that's our boy, bro. Is one of the best. Yeah.
Raheem is the man.
Right.
You have Slab Daddy and Alapata doing his thing. You have Captain's Barbecue at Wynwood who's taking over. So you have Carl Hate Mondays doing amazing stuff. Like there's a lot of dope up and coming barbecue spots that are established and up and coming. I'm sorry, that are doing incredible stuff, and that's a lot more than we had 5 years ago. Right. I think I got really lucky that I was one of the first ones to get on the scene. And so that helped, right? Everybody was looking for barbecue. And at the time, the options were not that many. So people were excited about this Texas feeling craft barbecue that they now had access to.
Because Raheem didn't have brick and mortar then. During that time, during that like weird...
So funny enough, I don't want to tell Raheem's stories. I don't want to mess it up.
Oh, no, Raheem's coming on for a separate episode. Don't worry.
But he'll probably, he started off just like... So I think me, Raheem, and La Trela all kind of started in that same COVID-esque chapter. And La Trela went on to open up a brick and mortar, and now they've moved to South Miami. And then Raheem had Q, and then he went on to do other amazing things. They took Drinking Pig almost on a national tour, right? I remember at a point they were in Ohio and they opened up
Drinking Pig, absolutely.
Yeah, and so
but it was that weird time. It was like before you had brick and mortar, Raheem had already, because once Raheem left Q, I thought Q wasn't nearly as good. Raheem left, Mike Lewis left, Steve Hyde left, and I thought it kind of like after that. So now the only place you had was the place in Alapata. Hometown.
Yeah.
That was really like, unless you want to go Opelika or like super north, like there was literally at one point just like no barbecue.
I'll give a shout out to the OGs where it's required, because Shivers and oh my God, the one down, no, Shivers and Shorties. Sorry.
Shorties. Well, yeah.
Shivers and Shorties.
Shorties definitely. Go.
Shivers, Shorties, cool. Shivers was a little special to me. I remember, this is my love for barbecue, when I started dating Laura, and I met her mom. The first place I took her mom to eat was Shivers.
Nice.
So I was like, hey, we're gonna go get some barbecue.
Family style.
Yeah, we're gonna get to know each other. And so Shivers always has like a special place in my heart. I think at the time, and I'm not saying that they're not now, right? But just at that time when they were kind of the only name on the block, they were the realest barbecue that was available. And so that's always been available to us down south. It's a little bit more of a traditional side of the road kind of pitch like joint, right? It's a pit joint.
Right.
And super great. I think what's happening now is we're seeing a little bit more of that craft style, a little bit more artisanal style barbecue that's coming in, right?
Well, you became a misfit of it. Like, listen, I'm used to old school barbecue, but even stuff with like your cornbread and the skull and like with a little salt and, I think it's incredible and it's different.
Yeah.
When you took Apocalypse, like it wasn't just a name you gave it. It was the menu, it was almost like a theme, right? Like it was.
Shout out to the marketing days, right? I understood branding, that helped, but I also knew I had to find creative ways to work in my limitations. I'm not a chef, right? So I wasn't coming up with like, oh, I can make this cornbread, back in the day. Oh my God, how did we forget to talk about the spot in Coral Gables that used to be oh my God, I just forgot the name. in Coral Gables, 2-story building, incredible photography on the walls with incredible food. And it was one of our first barbecue joints. And they had one of the greatest burgers that was ever made. Swine. That was it.
Swine, absolutely, yes.
So Swine was this amazing spot back in the day. And then, you know, they had this reinterpretation of cornbread that was this beautiful souffle, and all of their stuff was super artisanal. I'm not that, right? I'm not the Jeremy Fords of the world, the Pablo Zitzums of the world, that incredibly talented chefs that I love and adore.
Place was great.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, every time we did a dinner with Jeremy, and I was always not making fun of him, but I was always like,
Right.
yo, do I get to use tweezers now? But that wasn't me, dude. So I'm like, what can I do? And we had like a cake mold that my wife had bought for Halloween that was to make little skulls. And I was like, dude, let's make our cornbread inside of this, right?
Awesome.
And so like, let's do that. It's our logo's a skull. This is a skull. They kind of look the same. Boom, let's make it happen. And it was, again, one of those things. I had people at the time that told me, you know, if you go into a restaurant and you think that you're going to bake 500 pieces of cornbread a day on those little skull molds, you're crazy. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And I didn't understand why. I'm like, why? I just buy a lot of molds. And in my head, I was like, just do it. And so I did it. In retrospect, had I known how to run a restaurant, probably wouldn't have done the skull molds.
Right.
I would have done the sheet pan. But now it's iconic, right? Like if you go to Apocalypse, you have to take a picture of the skull cornbread. Like you need to do that. If not, you didn't go. And so it was figuring out what I could do within the constraints of my abilities. I knew how to barbecue. I knew how to actually barbecue because I had put myself through that process. And I'm fortunate enough, I think, that I have good taste. So when I made something, I knew if it was good or not, right? I had enough experience of going to restaurants and being able to taste food and knowing this is good and this is bad. And so I held myself to a strict standard. If it was even 1%, I didn't like it. It never went to my menu. It never existed. I probably did my little cafecito rub and rib and sauce, the Oro Negro sauce. I worked on that for 2 or 3 years. Like there was a standard that it was good. It was really good. But then every time I'd go to a pop-up and I'd try it, I'd be like, this can be better. And so we'd revisit and we'd revisit and we'd revisit and we would revisit. And it just kept pushing. And to this day, there's nothing that doesn't get questioned, right? We look at our mac and cheese. Yes. Can this be creamier? Yes. How do we do that? Let's try different versions. We look at our potato salad. Can this be better? We look at our beans. We just changed our beans. We went from a traditional style kind of barbecue sweet bean thing. One of the things that I really embrace in both of our restaurants is I want everybody to have an opportunity to be creative. You should be able to present an idea, and if it's good, we should run with it. And one of our chefs, Gabby, she came up with a new bean recipe, and she gave it to me, and I tried it. It was the most incredible thing. You could literally just have a bowl of this and eat it to the face. And she put some chicharrones on top with a little bit of cilantro, and I was like, this is 1,000 times better than what we've been serving. It's like, bye, goodbye. So beans are gone, and now these new beans are here. And it's amazing. And it's such a small change, but it's such a big difference. And so I believe there's never an acceptable, yes, this is a permanent fixture. You should always push to have better quality, but it should never make the menu until it's at the best quality you can do at the time.
What kind of feedback did you get from like the old school pit masters, you know, when you kind of do things a little different, where it's not like old school Texas barbecue, but you're putting in Caribbean flavor, you're putting in Latin flavor? Like, do they like say, oh, wow, this kid is really, you know, taking it to another level? Are they looking down on you in terms of like, oh, well, that's not, you know, OG barbecue? And
it's an interesting question, and there's a lot that goes into that answer.
Right.
One is age, right? One is where you're from. So the older folks from like the more traditional barbecue communities shun that. No way. You shouldn't be messing with barbecue. Is barbecue. And you need to do a tomato-based sauce or no sauce at all, and it needs to be this. What you guys are doing is not real barbecue. But then you have the younger generation that's embracing different cultures, especially people from Miami that are from this hodgepodge of all kinds of different flavors, and then they're like, yo, this is dope. I've seen people come in and they're like, I love that this place is reflective of my culture. I think Raheem is doing it the best, and that's super Caribbean flavors. People are able to get a taste of where they came from. And Miami is a place that you're not really born here. Most people aren't born here. There's a few of us that were, but most people aren't born here. You kind of just get here. And I don't care how much you love the city. I don't care how much you love the States. You're always going to miss home. Home is the first imprint on your soul. And you're always going to want to have some sense of nostalgia. So to be able to walk into any one of these spots and catch a hint of that flavor and still feel like you're trying something new and exciting, you know, those are the people that are like applauding. This is amazing. Then the older folks that are more traditional, they don't want that. And that's cool. You know, there's a barbecue place that's serving that kind of community. You want a traditional, old school, generationally tried and tested and true barbecue, go to Shivers, right? That's going to be there for you and you can enjoy that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Every place doesn't have to serve every person.
Right. So now you go from perfecting your craft and you know, obviously you're catching a lot of fire. What made you want to double down and be like, all right, now we're ready for burgers? Like where the hell did burgers come into your life?
So burgers came into my life in a very interesting way. A lot of my dates with Laura revolved around Five Guys.
Right.
So she's a massive burger lover and I'm a massive burger lover too, but I think she beats me a little bit in that category. And so it was always pushing like, let's add this burger to the menu. Let's add this burger to the menu. Let's add this burger to the menu. And then one day we're like, yeah, we have 50 burgers and we're a barbecue spot. Like, what are we doing? And shout out to my boy John again. Falco hits me up and he's like, hey, listen, I have this container behind Lincoln's. I need to make some changes. It's going to be available. Would you want to put in like an Apocalypse there, like a little Apocalypse Express? Want to try some stuff out? Maybe get a shot at a second, like running a second location. Right. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, but I do want to try some burgers. And so the idea of being able to focus on just the burgers and being able to take some of those things that we were really proud of, right? That were really good, but we wanted to stand on their own 2 feet was awesome. And it felt really safe because it's my buddy's spot.
Right.
So, you know, Lincoln's has its built-in traffic. It's a brewery. We did pop-ups in breweries all the time. So it felt like a repeatable system. So we started doing Tuesday pop-ups inside of Apocalypse just to see how it would work. And when we saw this thing had legs, we felt confident and we gave it a shot. And it was dope because it allowed us to create this whole new concept, which allowed us to have a whole new stream of creativity. And kind of going back to the conversation that I said highlight earlier, right? You want to break out of that creativity and you want, or out of those constraints, and you want to be as creative as possible. And this is something, I did a really cool video about this. I think it was a really important thing that I needed to say to myself. And as an entrepreneur, as a creative person, you want to do everything that you think you can do. If you can make burgers, you want to make burgers. If you can make pancakes, you want to make pancakes. If you want to open, you like deli sandwiches and you can make a good sandwich, you want to open up a deli.
Right.
The problem is when you start doing too many things, you lose focus. And
you're the jack of all trades, right?
Right. And so we saw Lala's working, and this is where we got ourselves into a little bit of trouble because Lala's was working and we were like, oh, okay, like we can just repeat this formula and do it again. So every Tuesday we started a taco concept called Umo. And we were like, this is huge in Texas. Everybody does barbecue tacos. Let's do some sort of barbecue taco situation because we can.
I'd crush some barbecue tacos right now.
Umo had some fire right. menu items.
Right.
I think everything about Umo was great, amazing. Like I was genuinely, we now have the cornbread churros that we had on Umo. They're on the menu at Apocalypse. Right. They were incredible dessert. Like the idea of taking cornbread, deep frying it, tossing it in sugar and cinnamon, and then serving it with ice cream, insane.
That's my wife's jam right there.
Fire.
Right.
So that continued to live. The lamb taco that we made a smoked lamb leg that we served with a mint crema. And it was just, a little bit of cilantro on there and just all kinds of just flavors that came together in such a bold way. It was one of my favorite things I think I've ever eaten. I've always said my 2 favorite creations that I've made were the bacon burger at Lala's and the lamb taco at Umo. I think those 2 things were the most, they hit every aspect of your palate in the most creative. I love everything I've made, but I just think those 2 really blew me away.
Right.
And so Umo had these amazing, everything. I can keep on for hours. Everything on the menu was fire, but we weren't able to give it the resources it needed, right? We weren't able to commit the time that it needed for growth. The focus wasn't there because everything we put into Umo, we were taking away from Apocalypse and Lala's. Right. So then it became a problem of, we can do this. Should we do this? And that's when we had to have a really tough conversation. And I think back on Apple and its guidelines and its guardrails. Apple could probably do anything in the world.
Sure.
If Apple really wanted to, they can make a car, they can make an airplane, they could make anything. Should they do that? They're good at what they do, making simple technology that's highly effective and powerful. And they're able to put that in your hand as an iPhone, as an iPad, right? They're good at that. They're great at that. They're the best at that. Why should they focus on something else if it's going to take away from what it does? We are really great at doing barbecue. We're really great at doing burgers. This is something that we've mastered these skills. Not mastered because we're always working to get better, but for the sake of this example, right? We've invested a lot into this. We're not taco guys. I'm not a taco guy. Like I've enjoyed a lot of tacos in Mexico. That doesn't make me an expert on tacos.
Right.
I've been to Eddie's spot, the Wolf of Tacos, a million times, but that doesn't make me a king of Al Pastor.
By the way, I love Eddie.
Eddie's the man.
Dude,
Eddie's the man.
They're both great, man. They're both just good, humble dudes, man.
Yeah. And so, I realized that and we had to pull back. And I'm not saying the idea is dead. Maybe one day the right partnership comes into place, maybe Eddie wants to open a spot with me and then we can do something, right? But right now we learned that we needed to focus. We needed to instill our own guide rails. And that's one of the challenges of being an entrepreneur is having that self-control to know that just because you can't do something doesn't mean you should.
Let me ask you a question. We're getting into inspirations and guidelines, and what I really want to know is, I'm big recently into Mount Rushmores, lists, For you personally, who is on Jeff Bud's Mount Rushmore for barbecue?
Great question. Number one on there is going to be Malcolm Reed.
Okay.
I think he's one of the greatest barbecue teachers in the game. Doesn't have a restaurant, but he is legendary in educating about barbecue. Second on there, I think, is going to be the man who made barbecue what it is, Aaron Franklin. I think he put barbecue on the map in a big way. So his face definitely has to be on there. The third is a person that I wish I had a relationship with, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for. He's the main pit master of the Burnt Bean Co. And he's doing incredible, amazing things. I've had the pleasure of going to his restaurant a few times and I've snapped some pictures with him. But he's like building up. He's got these awesome recipes. He just got listed number 1 in the Texas Top 50, which shows you he's crushing the game. And I think the last person that has to go on the list, because you have to respect the goatness of this person, is Tootsie from Snow's Barbecue. She's the godmother of barbecue. She's an incredible person. She's the patron saint for everybody in here. And just what she does and how she does it is phenomenal, especially at her age.
Right.
And so she definitely belongs up there.
Don't you love how like certain foods just bring communities together? Just like it's like back in the day watching a great movie, like you just like so you become such a fanboy of some of these people, like because they become masters of their craft. You know. What about burger culture? Who do you think in Miami, at least, is doing it right burger wise?
Ooh, that is a dangerous question.
I love that. Danger's our middle name, bro.
I'm gonna catch heat for this one for sure.
All right.
Who do I think is
no specific order? We're not going number 1. We're just like give me your like top 5 of Miami burgers. Like whether it doesn't matter what style, smashed or just like who is doing it right? Who does have some of the best burgers in Miami?
Okay, in no particular order.
No particular order.
I'll go somewhat alphabetical because I just can't think of a better way to do this. Right,
Let's
and I'm probably gonna mess it up. So first one that comes to mind is Babe's.
Babe's meat, right?
Babe's has this phenomenal off-menu, not so off-menu, the Babe Mac. It's my fucking love that burger.
Right.
I need to get over there. I haven't been in a while. That burger's fire. And then there's Cowie is doing incredible stuff. They are killing the game. Their smash burger. I got to do Eats Con with them, and I had their collab with the Salty.
Yep.
That was wild. Just fire deliciousness all over the place. I'm a big fan of a good Luther burger, anything with a donut on it, which is probably why I'm not going to live beyond 45. But shout out to Bulldog Barbecue back in the day.
Bulldog.
That was where I had my first Luther burger, and that was one of the greatest things.
I missed that place on Biscayne, man.
Oh my God,
it was
dude.
great.
You know the pitmaster passed. May he rest in peace.
No, Howie?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
I
dude.
didn't know that, man.
Yeah, man.
He was a good dude in general, man. We worked together, and like, he was always like grumpy and nice whenever you would come in, and it was great. Like had that smell, and it just had that.
I had the pleasure of interacting with him a few times actually when I was with Apple still, and I was doing the market trainings for retail.
Right.
We did it at the North Campus for FIU.
Right.
And so one of the 3 days, it was always Friday, Saturday, Sunday. One of those 3 days, I had to have lunch at Bulldog. So I was there about once a month for a long time. And he would come out, and he's the one that actually taught me that it was a Luther burger and why it was a Luther burger, because Luther Vandross used to eat his burgers with donuts.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
It's okay. We got a number 4.
Yeah.
Who's number 4?
Number 4 burger spot. I can't say Bulldog, right? Because they're gone.
No, you could say. I mean, Bulldog was still a thing, but
Bulldog had to be one of the dopest burgers that I had in the game. And then a number 5. What did I say so far? I said Babes, Cowie, Bulldog. Oh my God, I'm so bad with names. I have this thing as a former cancer patient. My brain is scrambled eggs, so I forget things a lot. Apologize for that. The guys from Argentina, Liberia. Yes.
An F&B client, love it. Those guys are great.
Yeah.
We're in expansion mode with them, and their messy burger for me is I love their messy burger.
Yeah, their stuff is delicious.
Let's do one more for good measure.
I'm gonna shout out a small spot that a lot of people probably don't know about, but is pretty dope.
Those are the spots we love, man.
Celia.
Okay.
Celia Burgers. They're doing a really dope smash, really clean sauce, really delicious burger. love that spot.
Love it, man. Jude, thank you. I love, listen, for me, this also helps a lot of the people in the community, like discover new operators that maybe don't have the marketing budgets and don't, or know as much. So, but thank you for that, man. So what is next in the life of Jeff Bud?
It's a great question. I think I had a plan, and then I became a dad, and now I don't know what I'm doing, and I should know what I'm doing, right?
What's the old Jewish saying? We make plan, God laughs.
Yep, that's about it.
Right.
That's about it. I know that I know that the plan includes the growth of Apocalypse and Lalas, right? We want to bring that level of hospitality to as many people as possible. I think in that conversation, in that spirit of being able to change the world, I think I do that by creating a place that helps shape the communities it's a part of. I think we showed that the community impact Apocalypse has when we had that situation with the smokers and the county needed us to go through all these approval processes. 300 people came and marched 2 blocks to make sure that we had what we needed, right? So people responded in a way that shows that they genuinely love and care about what we do. And I think
that was actually, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but that was actually one of my next questions was, how did you wind up in Kendall? Why did you go to Kendall?
Oh, for the people. So Kendall is a suburb, and I think, I guess you can say I made my bones in Wynwood, right? I did my pop-ups. I initially started out of my house in Kendall, but then I did my pop-ups at Box Elder, and then sometime at Wakefield. And, oh my God, Box Elder was the best. Wakefield, and I popped up all around these areas, and that was super dope. And the favorite thing that I had, especially at Box Elder, that translated a little bit to Wakefield when Box Elder closed, my favorite thing that I had was the regulars. That was still a time when people actually lived in Wynwood. It wasn't just a tourist place.
Right.
And so the people that would come see us on a regular basis, that to me was awesome, right? To be able to, one of the coolest friendships I made in that time was a guy named Oscar. And I've since partnered with him a lot in his nonprofit called Sebastian Strong. Oscar has a very powerful story. And his son, Lucas, actually works at Lalas. He's one of my head guys. And Oscar's son, Sebastian, passed away from cancer.
Oh, sure.
And Oscar did something amazing in that he took that moment and turned it into the catalyst for something beautiful. And his life's mission has become dedicated to helping fight pediatric cancer. And as a cancer survivor, that was super dope to me. So to have those early connections and be able to meet this guy who genuinely cares about people and genuinely wants to make a positive impact in this world, I was able to establish a relationship with him simply off the fact that, he wanted to come eat burgers. All he was doing was bringing his family to come eat burgers. I didn't know about the Sebastian Strong story until later on down the road. And then once I found that, it was a no-brainer. And now every Thanksgiving, Apocalypse is making as much turkey and food as possible, and we're taking it over to Nicholas Claus, and we're feeding all the families that have to spend Thanksgiving dealing with what they're dealing with, right? And so that comes from the relationships that were established by having regulars. And so when I saw the direction Wynwood was going, I was like, man, I really want to be somewhere where I can make an impact and I can make a difference in the direct community that I'm in. And I want it to be people that are going to be here always. And so we thought about all the different places. We looked at Coral Gables. We thought about South Miami. We thought about going down south as far as Homestead. And Kendall was just the one that kind of made the most sense. It was close enough to everywhere that you could access it. It was accessible. And it was open enough that we were able to find a spot that allowed us to do barbecue the way we wanted to do barbecue, with big offset smokers, traditional, old school style.
Right.
And so when everything kind of came together and we had that opportunity, it just made all the sense in the world.
Right. I mean, dude, listen, I really do appreciate everything you do for the community. Again, we're all very cliquey, and when we run into each other, it's like we're like little kids because, we love the craft and we love the business and we love the industry and we love the community, and again, I want to thank you, for everything you've done, everything that you guys are doing. But before you go, since we're on the topic of Kendall,
okay,
I think right now will probably be the best time to ask our last and final question. Jeff, what are your top 5 Kendall restaurants?
Okay. I can't say my own, right?
No.
No.
It's
That's not fair. That's not fair.
You truly listen. It's all choice.
Listen.
We know Lala. We know Apocalypse is the best.
So I think there's a lot of really dope spots in Kendall. Right. I think I got to give a shout out to the queen of the culinary queen, especially of Kendall right now, which is Eileen. She's doing incredible stuff.
Bow down, peasants. Bow down. Eileen is amazing. Not just incredible chef, an amazing human being. Great, great leader. Absolutely.
You know, yeah, she's doing incredible stuff. So Finca and Amelia's killing it. I got to give another shout out to a person that I don't think gets a lot of credit, and I'm gotten really into what women are doing in the world now that I have a daughter. I just bought Time Magazine just did like the 100 most influential women of all time, and so I bought that book for her.
Right, so, love that,
dude. It's I think as a person that's grown and done these things that he's done, I see how male driven the world is, and now I want to have my daughter coming, and I want to set her up to be able to play the game and do everything she can, right? And so I often think about Chef Adrian.
Yes,
she was
absolutely.
a person that started a little restaurant in the middle of nowhere, and she became a beast, right? Like she did incredible things. So she deserves a shout out as well.
Absolutely.
I think she's crazy. Plus her hair's cool.
That's right.
And then I would go, there's a not so small spot that I love to go for steaks called Puerto Madero. It's an Argentine spot, so I kind of it kind of ties in.
That's right.
But I eat there a lot. So I'm at Puerto Madero all the time. What else I got? I got those three.
I got two more.
I got for pizza. I'm smashing local pie. That's
right.
my go-to spot. And for coffee, I'm also hitting the spot right next door, which is Our Grounds. That's amazing. And then I need a fifth spot. I'm going. Can I do a Thai?
Sure.
So
absolutely.
there's two. If we're in an Asian mood, depending which Asian direction we're going to, I'm either going to Rusan, which is phenomenal, or I'm going to the Chinese restaurant of Kendall. Those two are. I also love the Chinese restaurant because the fact that they named it the Chinese restaurant is genius.
Simple.
Right?
Simple. I mean, it doesn't get more simple than that, right?
What are you in the mood for? I don't know. Let's go to the Chinese restaurant. Done.
I wish every restaurant could come up with names
Right?
that simple.
Let's go to the barbecue restaurant.
Right.
That's
the BBQ. Let's just go barbecue.
genius. So
I love it.
I know that was a little more than 5, but
No. But you listen, we're all about giving love on Just a Tip, and all about making that community thrive. And a lot of people who've called me for real estate spots, a lot of people going out to Kendall right now.
Kendall is dope.
It's one of the last few also affordable places. I mean, it's crazy, right? Is that one of the main reasons also, like, you didn't open like Brickell? And
I that was definitely, I had thinking of like the things Beltran would say to me and Falco would say to me, and everybody would whisper in my ear like rent. Kush is big on talking about rent. He just did your podcast. He was talking about it recently. And so it was like, okay, where do I set myself up that I'm not going to get killed on rent?
Right.
And that was definitely one of the big attractors. And I think it's cool to see the development of Kendall. There's big projects on the way. They're going to do some amazing things that are supposed to be in the pipeline, but it's also sad to see which direction Kendall's going. I live in the Crossings.
right.
And one of the things that I love the most about my community is I live on this little cul-de-sac, and I can name all of my neighbors. My neighbor to the left, Levi, takes everybody's trash out every day on trash day. If you forgot to take your trash out, you got a package, Levi's grabbing it for you. My neighbor in front of me, Alexis, if I leave my garage door open, immediately I'm getting a phone call, right? I have my neighbor Zay to the right that's always like, yo, this is what's going on in the neighborhood. Like, everybody's community driven. It's 9:00 in the morning. We're all getting ready to go out to work. It's basically a little coffee session in the street where people are talking to each other. Where do you have that in Miami?
Right.
That doesn't exist anymore, right? And like, you have real, genuine neighbors that care about your well-being, what's going on. Like, you talk about community watch, dude. Anybody rolls up on our block that shouldn't be there, you're getting 5 phone calls. Like, hey, who's this guy? You guys know this person? Like, and it's not to be chismoso. It's just, we genuinely care about the well-being of our people. We have little kids that live there, right? Zay has 2 little beautiful girls. Like, you don't want anything to happen to anybody.
Right.
And so I think that's that aspect of Kendall. I think that's a beautiful thing that I really hope and pray doesn't fade away with the continued development of the area.
A lot of continuing development, huh?
Yeah, a lot.
Let's just hope those prices at least don't go skyrocket, because then there really will be nowhere to go.
Yeah.
But dude, listen, I want to thank you, man. God bless you, man. Your family, your kids. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being part of the clique. We gotta have you on, and hopefully one day we have your daughter on.
Oh man,
and
that'd be
dude,
great.
Just keep doing what you're doing, brother. And I love you, man. Be good, man.
Love you too, my brother. Thank you so much for having me on here, and also, brother, what you're doing for the community. you're the loudest voice for us in the room in the most beautiful way. And there's a lot of times it's almost like you've become synonymous with fighting grease traps.
Right.
It's like, and maybe that sounds like a silly thing to say, but if you own a restaurant, you know the insane power of or destruction that a grease trap can wreak havoc on you. And to have somebody that's out there being a martyr for us and helping push our movement forward and protecting the community, that's pretty dope.
I appreciate you, brother. It takes a village. Obviously a lot of people helping out. Guys like Andrew Platt leading the way. Good people. Obviously he's good with the city. So the fact that he, I could talk all the shit I want, but when you have people actually on the other side of the government side, like pulling strings, like it's, it definitely takes a village. But I guess that's what we have to do. We just have to keep pushing to make our community as good as possible, man.
One little by little, one day at a time.
Bro, I can't wait to have you on.
Thanks, brother.
All right, my man.